Hi everyone. Welcome back to GIS Gallery. In today's video, we're diving into the world of advanced digitization tools in ArcGIS Pro. This is part 1 of our series, where we'll explore the Modify Features tools and show you how to efficiently edit and enhance your spatial data. Let's jump right in.
The select tool was where you can select your features, right? So you have the rectangle, the polygon, the lasso methods, and all those. So if in these things you have to manually go there and select these features, right? Select features, you have to actually manually go and select all these features, right? So like something, so if there's a lot of data that you wanted to select, it's a tedious stuff to go and go and select each of them one by one. It's a tedious task. Instead, we have some methods which are select by attributes and select by location. Okay, so yeah, so we have the select by attribute and then select by location. So select by attributes is using your attribute data. So whatever the data that is in your attribute table, you can use some kind of conditioning or rules on them so that it will actually select all the data that belongs to that condition or that actually obeys that condition, right? Those things. So just click on select by attributes. All right. So it has these kind of options here. So the input rows is to which field or to which layer you want these selections to be made, right? I have the Kerala states here, the lines new here, or the points new, or, and other data that is maybe here. So I have the Kerala states, right? So I want these selections to be made on this Kerala states layer. So Kerala states is my this data, right? So and whatever the columns that I have made there. So this data. So this is the Kerala states. So on this layer, I need to make some kind of selections. So instead of manually going and selecting one by one, I can set some kind of conditions so that this selected. And then if you see the selection type, you can say selection type is like specify how the selection will be applied and what to do if a selection exists. So whenever you have a doubt of whatever these tools are, you can just place your cursor on this kind of info button, right? The I button, this is called info button. Just place your cursor on that and it will actually give you a brief explanation of what these tools does and what each of this option is for. So if I'm just clicking it here, you have the new selection, right? You have the add to current selection. You have remove from the current selection. Select a subset from the current selection, or you can switch the current selection and clear the current selection. Okay. The new selection is just like it will be creating a new selection. Like you are selecting it one by one, right? So these are called selections. So new selection is it will be creating a new selection. Okay. And then you have the add to current selection. It is one like I have already a selection, right? So if I want to add some more selections to this already selected features, that is called add to current selection. For example, I have this selected. If I want to actually add to this selection another one more. So if I'm just selecting this one and this one, it's actually called adding to the current selection, right? So those kind of things is called add to current selection. And we have remove from current selection. So if it's something like I have these two features already selected, now, if I want to remove this from the selection, I just click on how the remove button, right? So that is called I remove it from the current selection. But the difference is that we'll be setting some kind of condition to select it, right? That's the clause. That's the conditions here, right? So if I'm clicking on new selection, it already has a selection. I just clear it, right? I am just clicking on new selection here, and then I can set the conditions here. So if I just click here, I have my fields, which is my field names in my attribute table of this Kerala states. I have the name, area, and perimeter, right? So if I'm clicking here, I have the FID ID and then name, area, perimeter. So I can search some conditions like if it's like a name. So name is like a text field. So if it's a text field, I have some conditions such as is equal to, it's not equal to, or you have the begins with, does not begins with, or like ends with, does not ends with, or it just includes some kind of values. It does not include the values, contains the text, does not contains it, is not, less than, greater than. So all these things you have with the text field. So I'm just showing it. So it's like something like begins with, right? I have the K. Okay, so everything of my data begins with K. All right. So instead of that, I'll just use my boundaries data here, which is this one. I think it's actually completed and I already has the attribute data. Yeah, it already has an attribute data. Yeah, you know what? I'll just use this data. So yeah, so input rows, I'll just select this boundaries export features. Yeah, this one. And that's for example, right? Just to show you guys how it works. And my selection type is right now is new selection, and my condition here I am giving where my name field, which is this field, right? I have the name field, something condition like begins with something like T, right? So it begins with T. So if I'm clicking apply, you can see there's some selections made, right? It's already selected some features. So what are those features? So those polygons are where the names it has the name Thiruvananthapuram and the name Thrissur. So since those features or those polygons begins with T, and this is my rule, right? Where name begins with T. Name is this field here. So which all rows whose value begins with T, it's actually true. So whichever the rows are true, it will be selecting here. Okay. So that is what setting a selection or setting a condition to create a new selection, right? So I already have a selection there. These two features are selected. Now I'll just show you what these other features mean, other options mean here. So there's something called add to current selection, okay? And I'm just giving another kind of mm, yeah, I'll just give another condition here, which like so I'll just give which ends with M, okay? So where the name ends with M, and then the selection will be adding to the current selection. Adding to the current selection means on top of these two selection, this new selection will also be added there. Okay. Instead of making a new selection, it will be adding to the current selection that is already selected here. And just if I click on apply here, you can see that some more selections are made. So what are those? So in your attribute table, you have two options here. You can see these two options, right? The first option is it's for viewing a whole table, and you have another one here, which is if you click here, you can only view those selected features here. So this is to view your whole attribute table, and this option is to from your attribute table you need to only see the selected features. So which are the selected features? You have the Thiruvananthapuram, which is because it was starting with T, and we have the column here, which is because it ends with M. So what happens here? In on top of this rule, you're adding to your already selected features. Okay, so that was the add to current selection. We already have some selection. We'll be adding this current selection to those selection which we already had. So these fields, so these features Kollam, Kottayam, Ernakulam, or and Malappuram was selected because it was true here. The condition became true here, which the name was ending with M. And this Thrissur and Thiruvananthapuram was selected here because we had the first condition was beginning with T, and we gave the add to current selection here. Okay. We also have the option called remove from current selection, which means I can the new condition I can remove from this collection. I just show. So remove from current selection. I can give another condition which could be, let me see, your name contains the text something like LA. Okay. So LA, which all ones have LA? We have Malappuram LA here. We have Ernakulam LA here. Alright. So this one should actually remove those fields which are true from your selected features. So from your current selection, we have these kind of six selections here. From this selection, the new condition, whatever the fields are true to this condition should be removed. Okay. If I'm clicking apply here, you can see those two have been removed, right? So those two values have been removed because that is true. So whenever it has the LA, it has been removed there. And then we got select a subset from current selection, which means from this selection, it will actually create a new subselection. Okay. So since nothing was contained here, all the selections have been clear. All right. And I had also option called like switch the current selection, which means whatever the features which has already selected, it will be switched. So maybe I'll just show cell features contain cell. Okay. So these are selected, right? So if I'm clicking on switch selection, whatever the features that have been selected will be unselected, and whatever features that are not selected will be selected here. That you can just see. If I'm just click apply here, see. So whatever the features those were selected before have been unselected, and whatever features which are not selected before have been selected. So those are the rules. Or whatever you have the current, or you have the current clear the current selection, which means you'll actually clear all the selections you have. And yeah, so those are selections using your name or text field, right? So what happens is if in the case of something like digits. So for the digits, you have conditions such as, okay, I think it's still in text. Let me see if I have something called area. Yeah. So area square kilometer is a numerical field, right? So see what are the conditions here. So we have the conditions equal to, we have the numerical kind of conditions, right? We have the equal to, we have the not equal to, we have the greater than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, includes the values, does not include the value. So is null, not null, is above average, is like below average. So what is this is null and not null? Null is something like when you have an empty field, it's called null. Okay. So if your field is actually empty, that is called your null field. So yeah, you can actually see here. So I have some fields here which is actually empty. So if it's empty, it will be showing the fields as null. Okay. Yeah. So those are null fields. So for this kind of also conditions you can give. So like if my square kilometer area square kilometer is, I can give something like greater than 4,000. If I'm giving a condition greater than 4,000 and I'm clicking apply, there, okay, it's not equal to, okay. I'm just giving is greater than. Okay. So when I'm giving is greater than, only those features which has the area square meter greater than 4,000 will be selected here. So I have this one, which is, I have the Dicky which has area square meter of 4,479, and then we have Palika which is 4,400, and another one which is, yeah, two features, right? So those two features are, or those two polygons or those two districts have the area of greater than 4,000, and so they were selected, right? Then similarly, we can set the add to current selection or remove from current selection, select subset from current selection. We have switched the current selection or clear this current selection uh, features. So that is set by attributes. Okay. So you can set some kind of condition on your attribute fields, and whenever these conditions are true, or for all the rows or for all the polygon features, so like it's not just polygon, right? So for any of the features or entities which this condition becomes true, will be selected. Okay. So instead of so it's just a kind of an automation thing, right? So instead of selecting, you selecting one by one, you can actually set some condition, and whenever those condition is true, all those features will be selected. So let's select by attributes. Similarly, we have another option called select by location. So select by attribute actually uses your attribute data. Select by location actually uses kind of the topological relationships, right? So it's something like, yeah, if you click on the relationships, so these are the relationships here. The specify the spatial relationship that will be evaluated. And yeah, so if I have two kind of features, so I have boundaries, and then let me see if I have any other layer. Do we have the roads that is in here? No. Do we have the polygon? Okay, I have the point data, which is the capital C. Okay, so let me see if I can do it. So I have the input feature will be my boundaries export features, right? So this polygon layer. So there is where the selections will be made, and then the selecting features I'll be keeping as my capitals. So which is the capitals here, and then we have the relationships here. So you can see this kind of relationship. We have the intersect, we have intersect 3D, or we have within a distance, or we have contains, or completely contains. We have the within, right? We have if the boundary just touches. So all these are topological relationships of two features. And if you have a doubt of any of these features, you can just keep your mouse here. It will show or explain whatever all those features are. You have the intersect. So this feature will be selected if they intersect the selected feature. Okay. So something like I can give the boundaries intersecting the capitals, right? I can just click on apply, and there are some selections made. It's because these polygons were actually intersecting this kind of these points are intersecting these polygons. Or you can set the condition as it is like completely contains. If I'm setting this condition, clicking apply, you can see there's another thing. That is because these points were not completely inside these polygons, right? Only these selected features, right? These selected polygons has their points or this has this capital point layer completely inside them. So only when these kind of condition becomes true, you have this kind of features selected. So select by attributes, you are actually taking data or setting conditions on your attribute table data. In the case of select by location, you are actually looking into the topology relationships of two features, right? You have the input features where the selections will be made, right? So these are the input features where the selections will be made. These are my boundary layer or boundary data, which is this districts data. And then we have the selecting features. So these features, or whatever, whenever these selecting features has some kind of topology relationship on these input features, the input features will be selected, right? So here my input features or where the selections had to be made was on the polygon layer of this districts, and the other layer which I used for these selections was the capital, which is this point layer. And so you can also set these kind of conditions here, right? So whenever these conditions becomes true, whatever the features that are selected will be selected, or whatever the features that becomes the condition becomes true will be selected in here. In here also we have the selection types. If you click here, we have selection types of new selection. You have the add to current selection. You have the remove from current selection. Or you have the select subset from current selection. And you have the switch the current selection, which we actually saw, right? And then it's not just this kind of thing. You can also have something like which is the search distance. So even if it's not actually inside your data or like within intersecting your data, you can actually set a distance, or you can actually set a distance where these selections can be applied true. Okay, so something like mm, let me see if I have anything that can be set a distance. Okay, so we have within a distance. Within a distance, yeah. Yeah, within a distance, yeah. Right. So within a distance is like if I have a point which is these polygons are within my distance of this point line. So I can see if it's like 1 meters. If I'm clicking apply, yeah. I think every one of these polygon layer are within 1 meter distance from my capitals. Right. Some are already inside and some were just on the line. So everything is true. So this kind of rule we can use when you have some two layers and one layer is a distant or has a distance from the other layer. So you can actually set this kind of distance parameter, and then you can actually make these kind of selections. So those were the select by attributes and select by location.